The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Welcome to The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldu. We got a great show for you this week. A lot of great topics to talk about, but first I got to get to my guest and my co-host, Greg Buchanan. Of course, you had a fantastic evening last night with the Boston Pizza Monday Night Sports Show. How'd it go?
Me and Brandon Bosler, Boston Pizza every Monday night until I die. So it was great. It's nice to see. We had Scott Hartnell on. He'll be on every week with us. We had Harvey Jones along with Reed Wilkins from 6:30 Ched, and we had Gary Van Haraway on. So it was a good hour show, and we'll be back there again next Monday night.
It'll be fantastic to listen to once again. And of course, we can't forget to mention you, Nerman Issa. You are our new cap anchor and news anchor for the main show, as well as a sports anchor for the late night. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
I purposely told you that I was going to wear animal print because I don't think animal print has ever made it onto the show yet.
No, I don't have animal print in my shoes.
So I made sure, I own a lot, but I made sure I wore my flashes stuff just for you and
Maybe
just for the Gloves audience.
Just maybe John Scott for the Buffalo Sabres was acting
Is that a good tie?
Animal-ish
Yes.
towards the game. Of course, Buffalo and Toronto on Sunday night, the back half of a home and home. Did John Scott break the code? Now, he went after, before the third period, during the intermission, went up to Phil Kessel and said, I'm going to go after you. I'm going to come after you. Gave him heads up, gave him a warning. When the whole fight broke out, there was an original fight before where one of the Buffalo Sabres young players unfortunately was hurt pretty bad, so he was sent off. But John Scott, by his head coach, decided to put him in because he felt that was insulted by the Toronto fans who were still cheering at this kid who's being injured. So when John Scott saw Phil Kessel, he said, let's go. And you know what? Things happened, and a lot of crazy stuff, of course, involving, David Clarkson, we'll get to in a second. But was there any code broken by John Scott is what I'm getting at.
Well, in John Scott's defense, Phil Kessel has a face that needs to be punched in the nicest way possible. No, I'm not a Phil Kessel fan, but I will admit that the enforcer, the big guy in your team, should not go after the star players. Really, it should be a little bit more even keel, like the same thing. You wouldn't want some goon going after your top guy. So I will say, yes, he kind of broke the code, but we don't know the full story, what was being said, if Kessel was beaking him off, if Kessel was doing something. But
I will say this, in his defense, as a coach, you try to send a message after that. And Randy Carlyle, even though he sent the guys to diffuse the situation, I think made a mistake. He should probably put Clarkson on the ice. Because you knew when you have the last line change, you know when you see Scott on the ice, chances are, hey, big boy, number 71, you go on too.
Yeah, you have a spruce tree with legs and a stick in his hand in John Scott. That's basically what he is. He's a tree. And then you have Phil Kessel lining up against him. What's Randy Carlyle thinking? He's got the last change.
He must have known
in Toronto. He knew exactly. He knew exactly what's going on. John Scott goes out there. Was John going to drop his mitts and go after Kessel? No. I don't think he would have. I think he was out there to scare Phil. Yeah. Phil ended up doing the old lumberjack on his legs. But I don't think John Scott was going to really drop his mitts. John Scott was there to send a message. Was he going to fight? Not real likely.
All right, with the
and
suspension.
he did it pretty well, though, because now Kessel will be out. And I don't know, do the Leafs play the Sabres anytime soon?
Well, it won't be till the regular season, but this is what I'm getting at. Phil Kessel, what do you think his suspension would be if it was over a game? Would you be happy with that?
Oh, yeah.
It would probably be the regular season, and at least 1 or 2 regular season games. Would you be happy with that?
He took better swings than the Blue Jays did all summer here. I think he needs at least a couple of games. Yeah. He went after it, and it's not where he hacked. It's not like he just hacked the legs or anything. He was going after the ankles. And if you're slashing at a guy's ankles in hockey, there isn't a lot of protection on the boot of a skate, and you're going to possibly break a guy's ankle.
He'd have to be.
Nazem Kadri said he was surprised he didn't swing high enough. But I do want to get to David Clarkson, though, guys. 10-game suspension for what he did. So fill in the blank for me. David Clarkson's attempt to go on to help his teammate is blank.
Idiotic. He didn't do anything. He jumped off the bench, got a 10-game suspension, didn't do anything. And I understand. You're heated. You want to protect your star players. You see it. But you, in essence, just screwed your team over because 10 games without him during the regular season when it matters, when the points actually matter to get to the postseason, he really screwed himself over. He shouldn't have.
Yeah, he went on the ice and didn't really throw a punch. He went on the ice to break up the fights. I know Clarkson, where he's coming from. He's a new guy onto the team. He wants to feel part of the team. He wants to show that he's supporting his teammates. He's trying to protect his teammates. As a new guy, you're trying to do that in a game like that because that's what he's known for. But as soon as he steps 1 foot on the ice coming off the bench, it's automatic 10 games.
Didn't he learn from last week with Bissonnette when he got 10 games for the same
But
thing?
sometimes in the heat of the action, I played the game, I managed the game. Sometimes your brain gets turned off for a few seconds, and that's what happens sometimes.
Speaking of turning off your brain, let's go to Vancouver and Edmonton, and Zach Kassian and Dale Weiss. Of course, a high hit to the head of Taylor Hall. Weiss got 4 games, plus the remainder of the preseason, and Zach Kassian got 5 games in the regular season, plus the remainder of the preseason for his, well, you say a lumberjack swing towards the face of Sam Gagner.
Yeah,
is that fair?
It's not,
Are
and that's the thing.
those
I've listened to the Edmonton media say that Kassian went after his head. Come on. Kassian fell into the boards awkwardly. He lifted up his stick. He didn't have control of his stick. You have to have control of your stick. Did he mean to hit Gagner in the jaw and break his jaw? No. If Sam doesn't have a broken jaw, Kassian gets basically that. Instead, he gets 5 games. So I think it's just outrageous.
No. When he went down, you saw, like, he could have just dropped. You saw him take his hand. He knew he was going to get Gagner somehow. Whether it's his face, his chest, his legs, he didn't care. You can tell when he went down, though, he made a purpose. That was a swing. That wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to regain my balance. No, you just fall. And he swung his stick, and he knew Gagner was there, and he missed his check, and I think he was like slightly embarrassed, and he thought, well, I'm going to take him out anyway. So he swung his stick, hoping to catch something, and you saw the picture of Gagner and his jaw.
No, it looked pretty bad.
He knew what he was doing. Whether he wanted to break his jaw, no, but he knew he wanted to get Gagner, and he wanted to injure him.
Yeah, I know the player has to have control of his stick, I understand that, but I just think that it was more of an off-balance situation with Kassian. He's not a very skilled player where he's very graceful on his feet. He fell on the boards awkwardly backwards and was looking to help himself, protect himself against the glass and hit
Very
Sam.
quickly, who will the Oilers miss more at center, Gagner or RNH?
I'd say Gagner for the time being. Just because RNH is going to come back much sooner, right? And Gagner is a little bit more of a proven, veteran at his age. He's not even a vet. But I just think maybe I'm leaning slightly more towards Gagner because he was finding his groove. He had a fantastic last couple of seasons that we thought maybe this could have been a breakout season
because
for him.
the fact he's much more valuable.
Well, he's more valuable, but I think one thing that for Nuge last season that really impressed me was not necessarily his point totals. So his point totals are down, but he became more of an all-around player than anybody ever thought he would be that early in his career. And I'd love to see him progress further as a good all-around player. So I think this season you're going to see Nuge become possibly like a Gagner, where a guy that's very, very well aware of his own end, but very well aware on the offensive end.
Okay, so you're saying RNH then?
RNH.
Okay, guys. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the goalie situation and which team is going to have, an interesting 2013-14 season coming up.